Today, I'm going to show you how to create a typewriter effect with text. This could be text just on the page, or this could be text in a button or something like this. Last week, I did talk about an animated button. If you come in here, let's go ahead and hit refresh here. And I'm going to hit restart. And I did talk about this, but we're going to animate this text as a typewriter. And we're also going to animate this text where it actually types out something else. So I could have it just initially have no text and then have it type out some text as well. We're going to provide that and then go back into that animated button and show you how to animate that text like there. That's what we're going to cover today. It does take quite a bit of code, and the code is kind of fickle. So I will just warn you that. And that has mostly to do with how Storyline does text inside of their slides. So if you wanted something beyond this, if you wanted something to have a typewriter effect, I'd probably do something like a custom code block, especially inside of Rise, where then in the code block have AI create that animated text for you. But if you want this typewriter effect inside of Storyline, this is the video for you, and I'm going to show you the snippet that you can copy and paste and reuse inside of Storyline here. So let's go ahead and dive in. And to do this, I'm going to use my JavaScript snippets tool. So if you're on my website at learningdojo.ninja, select the drop-down box and go into JavaScript snippets tool. Now inside of that tool, which is free, you can come in and sign up for the tool. And if you click on this plus icon, you then search for typewriter. So as I start to search for typewriter, I go right here, and this will give me the code. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of code here. So don't get overwhelmed by that. We're going to just target one thing that we can change. And this may change over time because right now, if I come in here, so the only thing I need to change is where it says value, which will probably have an ID there. But that's where it comes in and it just changes the ID of whatever text you're actually targeting here. So let's come into Storyline, and I'm going to get rid of my old one here. And I'm going to create this text. This is our text box 1. I'll just right click on that and then I'll grab the ID there. Now, if I come down into my JavaScript snippet and I just replace the value, that's all it does is it replaces the ID there. That's how I target it. Now, there's a couple different things depending on the size of your text that you will need to change. I'll probably have those as values down at the bottom. By the time the video comes out, you'll have different values where you can change different elements of the text here. So you can see here, the other things that I want to change is the base font value. So initially this is 32. And then also the slide size. Those are things that it takes into account because Storyline acts a little bit different because it automatically adjusts the size depending on the size of the screen. That way it's a little bit more of a varying size. And so that's why I have to provide the base, what the font size is initially, and then also what the slide size is initially as well. So that's the reason why I would need to change those two different values, which my slide size is set at 1,000. So you can see here the width is set at 1,000 there. This is the only way that I found. If you know a better way of figuring out the typewriter text, by all means share that with me down in the comments below as well. And then my font size initially is set to, let me come back into here, is set to 32. Now I have found that I have had to play around with that. So in this code, I set it to 32, but sometimes when it starts to type, it changes a little bit, so I have to kind of play around with that number. But for the most part, you can just match it there. If it's 32 instead of Storyline, you can come in here and make sure this is set to 32 as well. So if you have those two different values, everything else, from what I remember, everything else is pretty much the same, except for down here, you can change duration. And then this is the text that it's going to type out. So I will have a variable down here for whatever text you want to type out. And if you want to provide any easing, which right now I don't have any easing at all. And then also the duration, which I'll have a value down at the bottom that you can change those. Everything else you can pretty much keep the same. So those values up there, which again, I'll have all this available. But now if I click on copy code and I come into Storyline, I have to figure out when I want this animation to happen. This is something that I find that developers, initial learning developers struggle with is like when the trigger actually happens. Do I want this when the user clicks on the button? Do I want this when the slide loads? That is something that will set you apart as a learning developer, is really taking advantage of the when. For now, we're going to just go ahead and leave it as when the user clicks on the text, just so you can get familiar with that. So if I come in here and click on add, and then I click on execute JavaScript, I'm going to paste all of that in because I already found out the ID there. We already set the value of 32 and we already set the value of 1,000. And then I can change the text down at the bottom here if I wanted to. Now what this does is because it uses different, even though it uses GSAP, it uses a different library of GSAP that's not out of the box inside of Storyline. So it actually goes in and attaches this text plugin GSAP. And even though you may not be thinking, okay, that's too much for me to kind of wrap my head around, I like to point out exactly what it's doing so you can manipulate it, you can adjust it if needed. But it adds that plugin to Storyline so you could just take advantage of that text animation. So now you can do other text animations that's available inside of that GSAP library there. But we're just doing a simple kind of show animation. So we're animating to our main text, which is that text right here. And we're going to animate it to this, whatever the text is there. Now, if I wanted to, I'm going to click on OK, and we're going to keep this at when the user clicks on that button or clicks on the text. If I wanted to, I could actually just take that text value, and I can't delete it because if you delete all of the text, it actually deletes the text box. So instead of deleting all of the text, I would just add like a space. So I would just do a space, and so the text value is still there if I don't want anything to be there to begin with. So this is where I would just add a space there. At least, so there's something there, but for now, I wanna leave the text there and have it write out that new text. So let's go ahead and just preview this at this point. So now if I click on that text, you can see there is, and it's a little bit smaller text. So this is where I'd wanna play around with that base text, make it like 35 or something so it matches that. That's if you're replacing text. If I did something like that, let me go ahead and just get rid of that text. And let me just add a space because we don't want to completely delete the text box. But now if I come in, I probably have to trigger this on a different button though. So let's come in and just have, or when the slide loads, let's have it when the slide loads actually. So I'm going to come in and change this, not when the user clicks, but when the timeline starts here. And I may want to delay it a little bit, but let's just do that because it takes a little while in the preview for the page to load. So I may miss some of it, but let's see how this works here. So that is another problem that I have, is it then starts to adjust the width here. So I may want to stretch that out because the space, it only kind of takes advantage of like what the width is of that box. So I stretch that out a little bit more. So now it should work a lot better here. So you can see, there we go. So I didn't have any initial text, so we don't see that difference in size or anything like that. But if I wanted to change the text size, or if I wanted to change the text, I'm going to go back into my JavaScript trigger. Because I don't have this available at the time of this recording, I'm going to make it so you can just change the text here. But because it's not available, what you could do is just inside of these quotes, I can change this to hello world. And then I can just change the duration if I wanted to like 2 seconds. Let's go ahead and do that. So change it to 2 seconds there. Click OK. And now let's preview that. So you can see hello world. And it took a little bit longer. So shorter text, and so it looked a little bit slower there. But that's how you create a typewriter effect. Now, to be able to do this inside of the button, let me show you how that was done. So if I come into this button here, what I did is I targeted, as far as the object goes, I don't have any initial text, and I targeted this btn text here. So I grabbed the ID by right-clicking, and I grabbed the ID of that. And then inside of that execute JavaScript, it is the exact same text, except for a couple different things which I'll call out. So we are targeting the object here. So there's our ID. And then we are, oh, this is actually the animation for the other thing. Let me come down to the typewriter text actually. So there we are, it's targeting that ID right there. Now I changed the font size because the font size for this is set to 23. And then the width is still 1000 for the slide. So we're good there. And then I have this learn more text with that same 1.5. Same exact code, but because it's inside of a group, I still need to target that text, change the different values, which again, I'll have it inside of here where I can change the different values there. And then you copy and paste in that code and you have the typewriter effect. It's as easy as that, but that typewriter effect is pretty cool to be able to type out the text, and you can have an entire paragraph. You'd probably want to adjust the duration of that entire paragraph as well, but you could just target whatever the text is and then have it write out that text. Unfortunately, if you don't want the text to be there to begin with, you could just have the text not be visible, change the opacity if you wanted to, or just have all the text inside of the variable that you want to have typed out. So a lot of different possibilities with the typewriter text. It took a while for me to figure that out because of the varying sizes of storyline, but this is the code that I found to work the best. Now if I resize it, it should still look very similar to that initial size. If you want to check out more, head on over to my website at learningdojo.ninja. You can check out that tool that I talked about, the JavaScript snippet tool. You can also check out full courses. If this is brand new to you, you can check out the JavaScript for Storyline course. You can check out my Articulate Storyline 360 course, my Vibe Coding Fundamentals course as well, my XAPI Fundamentals course, my AI Assistant course, and then my Custom SCORM course. If you like this video, head on over to my YouTube channel, click the like button, subscribe to my channel, as well as hit the bell notification so you get notified of all future videos as they come out. That really helps my channel, allows me to continue to grow, allows me to create more videos like this to help you and other people like you customize Storyline, customize different e-learning tools, create different vibe-coded interactions as well. That's all I have for today, so thanks everyone. I'll see you next time.